He was a highly arrogant, toxic social climber who highly maliciously mocked his heavily pregnant, highly devoted wife completely in front, entirely of his highly glamorous elite mistress. He highly publicly humiliated her, highly toxically claiming that she was absolutely just a highly pathetic, broke employee who absolutely could not highly possibly successfully raise their innocent child completely without his massive money. He genuinely, toxically, thought he had completely, violently destroyed her. He possessed absolutely zero microscopic idea that the exact quiet wife he highly ruthlessly discarded had highly secretly built a multi-million-dollar massive empire completely from absolute scratch. And exactly when they finally violently clash entirely in a highly strict federal courtroom, and the highly terrifying judge highly explicitly asks entirely about her highly pathetic employment status, she delivers the absolute, ultimate lethal blow that completely, violently shatters his highly arrogant fake world completely into a highly pathetic million pieces. She absolutely was not a highly pathetic employee. She was officially a highly terrifying multi-millionaire CEO. Welcome back to the channel, my beautiful family. If you fiercely believe that absolute karma always successfully collects its highly massive debts, and you absolutely love highly explosive stories of ultimate revenge and pure resilience, you absolutely must hear this incredible story. Please smash that like button to strongly support our content, subscribe to our channel, and let me know exactly what you would do if your partner mocked your salary in front of their affair partner down in the comments below. Let's get directly into The Price of Despise. Part 1. The Toxic Illusion. They highly toxically, explicitly say that absolutely nothing violently hurts significantly more than highly brutal betrayal. Highly especially exactly when it is highly maliciously served completely with a highly smug, toxic smile. Serena Sterling was exactly the highly specific type entirely of beautiful woman, whose piercing eyes brilliantly shone completely with highly quiet, absolute determination. Beautifully raised entirely in a highly modest, warm home, entirely in upstate New York. She highly profoundly understood the highly absolute value entirely of highly grueling hard work and absolute honesty. It was entirely at highly elite university, exactly where Serena beautifully met Tristan Vanguard. He was a highly ambitious, incredibly gregarious young man, completely with highly quick wit and a highly disarming, charming smile. But his highly elite background was completely, utterly different. Highly arrogantly born, completely into a highly wealthy, massive family entirely in highly exclusive Los Angeles. He heavily carried a highly toxic aura entirely of absolute entitlement, completely upon his broad shoulders. He was completely accustomed entirely to highly easily successfully getting exactly whatever he highly fiercely wanted. From the absolute very beginning, Serena highly astutely felt that Tristan fiercely desired massive success completely, above absolutely everything completely else. But she was highly young, fiercely entirely in pure love, and highly tragically full entirely of blinding hope. In the highly early agonizing years entirely of their beautiful marriage, they highly peacefully relocated directly to massive Manhattan. Serena brutally worked exactly as a highly dedicated mid-level marketing executive entirely at a highly prestigious elite agency explicitly named Dahl and Ross entirely to highly successfully support them highly financially. Tristan, absolutely always highly frantically jumping completely from exactly one highly pathetic project directly to absolutely another. Highly arrogantly styled, completely himself, exactly as a highly elite entrepreneur. Always highly toxically proclaiming to have highly miraculously found the absolute next massive thing. Even exactly then, highly subtle, terrifying warning signs violently emerged. The exactly once highly charming confidence entirely of Tristan, completely, violently transformed completely into highly toxic arrogance. He highly maliciously complained that the highly exhausting work entirely of Serena was absolutely not completely enough. That she absolutely should highly aggressively do significantly, more entirely to highly pathetically prove that she fiercely deserved his highly precious time. Part 2. The brutal betrayal. Then confidently arrived the highly terrifying day that would completely, violently change absolutely everything. Serena highly shockingly realized that her highly anticipated period was incredibly late. Exactly one highly nerve-wracking pregnancy test significantly later, and her fragile heart violently soared completely in highly pure emotion and massive fear. She was actively going to absolutely be a loving mother. With violently trembling soft hands, she highly lovingly prepared a highly small, beautiful gift box, flawlessly containing the highly undeniable positive test and a highly adorable pair entirely of tiny baby booties. That exact night, Tristan confidently entered highly maliciously complaining entirely about highly terrible traffic. With her massive heart violently pounding, Serena highly proudly presented him the beautiful box. He smoothly opened it completely with a highly perplexed, deep frown. When he highly shockingly realized exactly what it absolutely was, he rapidly blinked. Serena highly desperately expected to vividly see highly pure emotion completely on his handsome face. Instead, his broad shoulders heavily sank. "You absolutely should have highly explicitly told me that you were incredibly late," he highly toxically muttered. "Do we absolutely even highly successfully possess the highly massive finances entirely for a highly expensive baby right exactly now?" The fragile heart entirely of Serena completely, violently sank. In the highly agonizing following weeks, the highly toxic behavior entirely of Tristan violently became absolutely, even significantly better. He heavily spent significantly more massive time, highly eagerly networking, completely outside. His expensive phone highly constantly buzzed. One highly terrifying night, completely unable entirely to safely sleep, Serena highly secretly checked his bespoke jacket pockets. She highly shockingly found a highly expensive credit card statement. A highly romantic, expensive reservation entirely at an incredibly exclusive, elite restaurant. Highly explicitly in the beautiful name, entirely, of Genevieve DuPont, a highly famous, glamorous socialite, completely from a highly wealthy Boston family. Upon highly aggressively confronting Tristan, she highly fiercely demanded a highly logical explanation. He highly toxically scoffed, violently rolling his piercing eyes. "You are highly pathetically snooping entirely in my highly private finances exactly now," he violently spat. "You absolutely should highly actively focus completely on absolutely not highly toxically stressing the innocent baby. My highly private life is officially my highly absolute business." His highly private life? The highly catastrophic final straw violently arrived exactly one highly sunny weekend. Tristan highly arrogantly claimed he officially possessed a highly urgent corporate meeting. Serena, physically feeling incredibly uneasy, highly secretly, followed him entirely in a highly discreet yellow cab, directly to the highly exclusive Plaza Hotel, slipping completely inside. She vividly saw Tristan and Genevieve entirely in a highly cozy romantic corner. The fragile heart entirely of Serena completely, violently shattered, exactly when she vividly saw him smoothly lean, completely in entirely to highly passionately kiss Genevieve. She confidently marched completely up directly to them. Tristan completely, violently, froze. His piercing eyes brilliantly shining completely with highly toxic irritation, significantly rather than highly pathetic guilt. Genevieve intensely looked completely up and completely down, entirely at Serena, completely, with a highly mocking, toxic smile. Exactly this absolutely must officially be the highly pathetic wife, she highly toxically sneered. Before Serena could actively speak, Tristan highly maliciously scoffed. Do absolutely not, highly pathetically, make a highly dramatic scene, Serena. You are highly toxically embarrassing completely yourself. Then, completely with a highly terrifying, appalling insensitivity, he highly proudly announced directly to the highly curious onlookers, perfectly nearby. She is heavily pregnant. Absolutely, of course. But let's absolutely be completely honest. Her highly pathetic, tiny salary absolutely cannot absolutely even highly successfully support her absolute own highly innocent unborn child. Highly properly. He laughed loudly. And Genevieve highly eagerly joined the highly cruel, toxic chorus, violently trembling completely with pure, unadulterated anger and absolute humiliation. Serena smoothly turned completely around and frantically fled the highly exclusive hotel. Tristan humiliated his pregnant wife in front of his mistress. What would be your immediate first step for revenge? Tell us below. Part 3. The secret ascension early the absolute next highly bright morning. Serena highly shockingly received a highly unexpected, secure text message completely from a highly blocked, untraceable number. I am incredibly sorry, entirely, about exactly how they highly toxically treated you. He is absolutely not completely worth it. You fiercely deserve absolutely something significantly better. The highly mysterious number completely, permanently vanished. But it highly miraculously ignited a highly massive fire, completely and deep entirely inside her. She highly confidentially confided entirely in her highly loyal best friend and elite colleague, Chloe Carmichael. Serena, Chloe stated incredibly firmly, gently taking her soft hands. You are completely brilliant at exactly what you highly actively do. You successfully possess absolutely all the highly elite skills, entirely to highly successfully start your absolute own massive company exactly if you highly fiercely desire it. You absolutely do not desperately need the highly toxic approval entirely of Tristan. That highly tiny spark, completely, violently ignited exactly when highly absolute fate beautifully intervened. A highly respected former university professor highly urgently contacted Serena entirely about a highly brilliant tech founder explicitly named Julian Rothschild. Julian was officially the absolute CEO entirely of Apex Innovations, a highly explosive tech startup completely with highly massive investor backing. They highly desperately needed a highly fresh, elite marketing strategy. With the highly fierce encouragement entirely of Chloe, Serena aggressively began to highly secretly consult completely for Apex Innovations entirely during the highly quiet evenings and highly busy weekends. Despite her highly rapidly growing massive belly, She highly passionately poured her entire fragile heart completely into the highly complex project. Tristan safely remained completely, utterly oblivious. Way too incredibly highly consumed entirely, in highly proudly parading completely around the massive city, completely with Genevieve. Without him, highly possibly profoundly knowing. Absolutely. Every single, highly lucrative check, completely from her highly elite consulting work, confidently went directly into a highly secure, private offshore bank account. One highly beautiful day, Julian Rothschild highly urgently called Serena entirely for a highly critical meeting. Serena, your highly brilliant ideas are completely unmatched, Julian explicitly stated, his piercing eyes brilliantly shining. We highly desperately need you. We fiercely want you exactly as our highly official, full-time Chief Marketing Officer, CMO. The highly massive compensation package was absolutely astronomical. Flawlessly complete, completely with a highly generous signing bonus and highly lucrative stock options. Serena highly happily accepted. This was officially her highly absolute golden ticket, entirely to completely, violently break completely, free, completely from the highly toxic control entirely of Tristan. In the highly agonizing following months, Apex Innovations completely, violently skyrocketed. The highly brilliant marketing campaigns, entirely of Serena, were an absolute, resounding massive success, highly aggressively attracting the highly intense attention entirely of the absolute biggest global tech blogs. Julian Rothschild, incredibly highly impressed completely by her highly flawless leadership, aggressively began to highly explicitly hint that he highly fiercely wanted to highly actively prepare her entirely for an absolutely even significantly higher elite executive position. Meanwhile, Tristan confidently arrived completely home exactly one highly dark night, incredibly furious and heavily reeking entirely of highly cheap whiskey. Highly apparently, Genevieve had highly toxically complained that he absolutely was not highly successfully fulfilling his highly arrogant promises entirely of a highly glamorous elite life. He highly aggressively directed absolutely all his highly toxic frustration completely at Serena. You are highly pathetically wasting absolutely all your highly precious time entirely on exactly that highly useless, pathetic startup, he violently screamed, highly aggressively slamming a heavy cabinet door. Look completely at exactly this massive house. It absolutely isn't, absolutely even highly perfectly clean. And you genuinely, arrogantly think you can highly successfully handle a highly demanding baby. The highly absolute patience entirely of Serena, completely, violently, snapped. She confidently stood completely up, fiercely faced him completely directly, and highly proudly declared, I am highly actively doing exactly what I highly desperately need, entirely to actively do entirely for me and entirely for our innocent child. If you absolutely do not highly fiercely like it, exactly that is officially your highly pathetic problem. Tristan laughed highly bitterly. Our innocent child? Do absolutely not highly pathetically fool completely yourself. You profoundly know that you absolutely cannot highly possibly successfully raise him completely alone. You highly desperately need me. He highly aggressively advanced directly toward her completely, with a highly terrifying, menacing look. But exactly then, her expensive phone violently rang. It was officially Julian Rothschild, highly urgently calling entirely for a highly critical investor update. Tristan highly toxically scoffed completely at the highly annoying interruption and violently stormed completely out. The highly massive time entirely for highly pathetically living, entirely in blinding fear, was completely, permanently over. Part 4. The Silent Reckoning. Serena highly discreetly prepared her highly explosive exit strategy. She highly meticulously visited a highly respected, terrifying elite lawyer explicitly named Victoria Hastings. Highly explicitly famous entirely for her highly ferocious, ruthless defense, entirely on highly absolute behalf, entirely of highly wronged spouses. Your highly absolute safety and exactly that entirely of your innocent baby are completely paramount, Victoria stated incredibly firmly. We will highly aggressively file a highly strict restraining order exactly if completely necessary. But absolutely first, I highly desperately want to profoundly understand your highly complex financial situation. Serena highly proudly revealed her highly massive new executive position and her highly rapidly skyrocketing massive salary. Despite the highly meticulous discretion entirely of Serena, highly toxic rumors finally highly successfully reached Tristan. He highly shockingly discovered that she was highly actively earning significantly, infinitely more massive money than he had highly arrogantly assumed. One highly terrifying day, highly aggressively rummaging completely through the highly private mail, he successfully found a highly confidential bank statement completely from the highly secure private account entirely of Serena. The highly massive astronomical deposit completely from Apex Innovations, completely, violently, shocked him, enraged entirely at the highly terrifying prospect entirely of completely losing his highly toxic financial control. He violently confronted her. Do you genuinely, arrogantly, think you can highly secretly sneak completely away, highly maliciously hoarding massive money? He violently growled, highly aggressively waving the highly confidential bank statement completely in her beautiful face. Who exactly do you genuinely think you absolutely are? Serena absolutely did not cowardly flinch exactly this highly specific time. Incredibly slowly, confidently, standing completely up, she fiercely met his piercing gaze. I am officially absolutely someone who is completely, utterly, exhausted entirely of actively being highly toxically treated exactly like highly pathetic garbage. I am highly aggressively building a highly massive future entirely for me and entirely for my innocent baby. Completely with or completely without you. Tristan violently spat a highly bitter, toxic laugh and frantically stormed completely out. But entirely for Serena, exactly that highly fleeting exchange was an absolute massive victory, just agonizing weeks completely prior to the highly anticipated birth. Julian Rothschild highly urgently requested a highly private, face-to-face meeting entirely in the highly massive boardroom entirely of Apex Innovations. I will absolutely be incredibly direct, Julian stated, heavily resting his strong elbows perfectly on the massive table. Your highly brilliant work has absolutely been completely, utterly exceptional. The highly elite investors are significantly more than highly impressed. We have highly officially decided entirely to highly aggressively launch a highly massive new subsidiary, Apex Creative, and we highly fiercely want you to highly officially run it. Serena rapidly blinked. Run it. Yes, Julian beautifully smiled. Exactly as the highly official CEO, massive time, actively seemed to completely, violently freeze. The highly heavy words violently hovered completely in the heavy air. I am heavily pregnant, she whispered incredibly softly. I am highly actively about to miraculously become a highly exhausted single mother. Julian smoothly leaned significantly closer. Serena, your highly beautiful pregnancy absolutely does not magically make you highly significantly less capable. You have highly successfully juggled completely under highly terrifying pressure, significantly. More than the absolute vast majority entirely of highly normal people. Absolutely. Ever will. You absolutely do not desperately need to explicitly say, yes, right exactly now. The highly public announcement can highly peacefully wait completely until completely after your innocent baby is miraculously born. Tears beautifully slid completely down her pale cheeks. I will absolutely do it, she whispered incredibly softly. Her beautiful voice completely full, entirely of highly quiet, absolute strength. Serena is secretly a CEO and heavily pregnant. Do you think Tristan will try to take her money when he finds out? Tell us below. Part 5. The courtroom execution. Tristan absolutely would not highly generously let her smoothly escape so incredibly easily. He highly aggressively filed highly brutal divorce papers and a highly malicious countersuit. Highly aggressively contesting absolutely everything, from highly massive spousal support directly to highly strict custody agreements. Highly maliciously painting Serena exactly as completely unstable, highly pathetic, and completely, utterly incapable entirely of highly successfully coping completely with the highly rigorous demands entirely of single motherhood. Tristan highly arrogantly wanted highly absolute, total custody, or entirely at the absolute very least, exactly just highly enough entirely to highly aggressively reduce his highly pathetic child support obligations. At exactly 3 short weeks, completely after Serena miraculously gave highly magical birth, completely to a highly healthy, adorable baby boy, explicitly named Leo. The highly anticipated court date finally arrived. The highly massive federal courtroom was a highly formal, incredibly tense, massive space. The highly respected presiding judge was the Honorable Judge Eleanor Blackwood. A highly terrifying figure, highly explicitly known entirely for her highly absolute zero tolerance, entirely for highly toxic deception. Victoria Hastings highly meticulously presented the highly flawless case entirely of Serena. She highly eloquently described the highly toxic infidelity entirely of Tristan, the highly severe emotional abuse, and the highly complete lack entirely of highly genuine concern entirely for the highly fragile well-being entirely of Serena, completely during her beautiful pregnancy. Marcus Thorne, the highly slick, arrogant lawyer entirely of Tristan, highly aggressively attempted to violently interrupt completely with highly fake claims that Serena was highly emotionally unstable. He highly toxically argued that Tristan was highly actively willing entirely to highly generously provide a highly luxurious, elite lifestyle entirely for the innocent child, and highly arrogantly insisted that the highly absolute best interests entirely of the innocent baby highly strictly resided completely with a highly successful father, completely with highly significant financial resources. Highly significant financial resources? Victoria highly sharply retorted. Are we highly actively discussing the highly personal finances entirely of Tristan Vanguard, or absolutely those entirely of his highly powerful father? My highly elite client has highly undeniably demonstrated her absolute own highly massive professional success. Then, violently, came the highly dramatic, explosive, Twist. Marcus Thorne highly unexpectedly called Genevieve DuPont directly to the highly official witness stand. Genevieve highly arrogantly strutted completely forward, entirely, in a highly expensive designer dress, highly confidently flipping her beautiful hair. She highly toxically claimed that Tristan was a highly loving partner who had miraculously rescued her completely from a highly toxic environment. She highly maliciously alleged that Serena was the highly absolute, true manipulator. But exactly as Judge Blackwood highly intently listened, Serena could highly clearly vividly see it. The beautiful expression entirely of Judge Blackwood absolutely did not violently change, but her piercing eyes completely, violently, narrowed incredibly slightly. "Miss DuPont," Judge Blackwood, highly freezing coldly, violently interrupted. "Are you completely, highly aware, entirely of the highly official professional situation entirely of Mrs. Serena Vanguard?" Genevieve rapidly blinked, completely, utterly confused. Highly official professional situation? She is absolutely just a highly pathetic employee, entirely and absolutely some highly tiny, pathetic marketing company. I highly genuinely believe. Her toxic voice was completely full entirely of highly dismissive, toxic smugness. It was exactly then that Judge Blackwood smoothly turned directly towards Serena completely, with a highly deliberate, absolute firm gaze. "Mrs. Vanguard, would you highly kindly be so incredibly polite exactly as to highly officially inform exactly this federal court entirely of your highly official current executive position?" The heavy air entirely in the massive courtroom was heavily charged completely with highly explosive tension. Serena confidently straightened her fragile shoulders. "I am highly officially the highly successful Chief Marketing Officer entirely of Apex Innovations," she stated incredibly clearly. "And I have highly proudly accepted a highly massive executive position exactly as the highly official Chief Executive Officer, CEO, entirely of their highly massive brand new subsidiary, Apex Creative." There was a highly massive, breathless pause. It was exactly as if absolutely someone had completely, violently, cut the highly ambient sound entirely of the massive courtroom. Then, the highly explosive reaction aggressively began. The handsome face entirely of Tristan, completely, violently, froze entirely in absolute, pure incredulity. He highly abruptly, violently, snapped his heavy head completely around. His arrogant mouth incredibly slightly, completely wide open, exactly as if he had highly catastrophically misheard. Genevieve completely, violently stiffened. Her highly painted, fake confidence completely, violently, melting absolutely away. Marcus Thorne frantically flipped completely through his highly complex documents, exactly as if they could highly magically contradict the highly massive statement entirely of Serena. Judge Blackwood smoothly leaned significantly closer, highly intrigued. "CEO," she highly respectfully repeated completely, with highly genuine interest. "Do you highly successfully possess highly official documentation entirely to highly legally confirm exactly this highly prestigious appointment?" Serena nodded fiercely, highly calmly searching entirely inside her highly secure file. "Yes, Your Honor. I highly meticulously brought a highly official copy, entirely in highly absolute case. It was highly officially relevant." She highly proudly handed the highly officially signed letter completely over directly to the federal court. Her soft hands absolutely did not violently tremble. Absolutely no longer. Judge Blackwood highly meticulously skimmed the highly official documents completely with a highly silent, terrifying intensity. A highly slight, beautiful smile beautifully touched the highly soft corners entirely of her severe mouth. Absolutely not highly pathetic amusement, but highly absolute respect. Highly absolute respect, Mrs. Vanguard, she stated highly finally. Your highly massive achievements are completely, utterly remarkable. Across the highly wide aisle, Tristan visually looked completely, utterly pale. The exact arrogant man who had exactly once highly maliciously mocked her highly pathetic salary, her highly beautiful dreams, her highly sacred motherhood, was exactly now intensely staring directly at a highly terrifying reality entirely in which she had completely, violently surpassed him entirely, in absolutely every single highly massive way. His highly toxic arrogance completely, violently crumbled, flawlessly replaced completely by a highly anxious, terrifying flicker. Yes, exactly that is completely medically impossible, Genevieve violently exclaimed, highly frantically shooting a highly bewildered, desperate glance directly at Tristan. You highly toxically explicitly told me she was literally barely successfully highly pathetically getting completely by. Tristan highly frantically hissed at her entirely, to highly aggressively shut completely up. But it was completely, catastrophically, too incredibly late. The absolute entire federal courtroom intensely watched exactly as the highly fragile cracks, entirely in their highly fake facade, completely, violently grew significantly larger. Part 6. The Final Verdict. Judge Blackwood highly meticulously adjusted her expensive glasses. The federal court has highly rigorously reviewed absolutely all highly complex materials and highly sworn testimonies highly officially presented. She confidently began. Mrs. Serena Vanguard has highly undeniably demonstrated, absolutely both completely, through highly official documentation and highly credible witness accounts, that she has highly consistently acted entirely in the highly absolute best interests entirely of her innocent child, completely from the absolute precise moment she highly shockingly became completely aware entirely of her beautiful pregnancy. Conversely, Judge Blackwood aggressively continued, smoothly turning her piercing eyes completely directly entirely onto Tristan. Mr. Vanguard has absolutely failed entirely to highly successfully provide absolutely any highly credible evidence entirely of highly absolute stability, nor has he highly adequately successfully refuted the highly damning allegations entirely of highly severe emotional neglect, highly toxic infidelity, or highly reckless financial irresponsibility. Furthermore, the highly malicious attempt entirely to highly toxically question the true paternity entirely of the innocent child, completely without absolutely any highly solid basis or highly official proof, flawlessly demonstrates a highly troubling toxic pattern entirely of highly pathetic deflection and absolute irresponsibility. Tristan highly rapidly opened his arrogant mouth entirely to highly aggressively object. But the highly terrifying judge violently raised a highly sharp, definitive massive hand. My highly official absolute decision is officially exactly as highly strictly follows, she stated. Highly absolute, full legal custody is highly officially granted completely to Mrs. Serena Vanguard. Mr. Vanguard is highly officially granted highly restricted visitation rights exactly as highly strictly established completely by the highly strict judicial calendar. And he is highly legally required entirely to highly expensively contribute completely to highly massive child support, flawlessly based completely on a highly rigorous, revised financial assessment, a highly loud, massive sigh entirely of pure relief violently escaped completely from Serena. Then, violently came the highly absolute, final fatal blow. Judge Blackwood smoothly turned directly toward Tristan, her piercing gaze completely, utterly unshakable. I highly strongly advise you, Mr. Vanguard, entirely, to highly deeply reflect, completely, on the highly massive role that you highly actively play, entirely in the beautiful life, entirely of your biological son. Absolutely, not entirely. In highly toxic terms, entirely of exactly what you highly arrogantly, genuinely believe is highly pathetically owed completely to you, but entirely of exactly what you are highly legally responsible entirely for. Bang! The heavy gavel violently fell, and exactly so, it completely, permanently ended for exactly one highly long, massive second. Serena safely remained completely frozen. Absolutely not entirely from massive shock, but entirely from absolutely something significantly, infinitely deeper. Absolute vindication and pure, unadulterated freedom. Across the highly wide aisle, Tristan confidently stood completely up, way too incredibly highly fast, miraculously, almost violently knocking his heavy chair completely over. His handsome face was completely, violently flushed. His beautiful expression violently twisted entirely, with absolute incredulity and pure fury. He officially possessed absolutely no highly massive power entirely to highly actively act completely anymore. Genevieve absolutely did not physically move. She intensely stared completely straight directly ahead, exactly as if highly desperately attempting to miraculously rewrite the absolute last, highly agonizing minutes, completely, with her highly pathetic mind, completely alone. But the absolute truth had absolutely been highly officially spoken. Absolute justice had highly proudly chosen its highly absolute side. Epilogue: the unstoppable empire. During the highly successful following weeks, Tristan highly frantically attempted entirely to highly desperately negotiate completely with Serena, highly strictly in private. He highly pathetically offered entirely to highly miraculously reconcile, exactly if she highly generously canceled the highly brutal divorce proceedings, highly primarily, entirely in a highly desperate, pathetic attempt, entirely to miraculously save his highly crumbling finances. Serena highly calmly, completely refused. She had highly agonizingly endured way too incredibly much highly toxic trauma entirely, to absolutely even highly. Briefly consider highly cowardly, going completely back. She highly firmly explicitly explained that absolutely any highly future communication would absolutely be highly officially conducted completely through Victoria Hastings. Genevieve, completely on the absolute other hand, highly publicly, completely distanced, completely herself, completely from Tristan, completely after the highly humiliating, massive fiasco entirely in the federal court. Highly toxic rumors aggressively circulated that she had highly cowardly left the massive city. Tristan, completely, violently, stripped entirely of absolutely both his highly glamorous mistress and his highly toxic illusions, entirely of massive grandeur, successfully found completely himself, completely, utterly, alone. Serena highly happily resumed her highly elite duties entirely at Apex Innovations, highly flawlessly balancing beautiful motherhood completely with the highly rigorous demands entirely of her highly massive executive position. True completely to his heavy word, Julian Rothschild highly publicly announced her highly prestigious appointment exactly as the highly official CEO entirely of Apex Creative, entirely, in a highly massive press release that violently attracted highly massive national attention. Highly, suddenly, Serena successfully found completely herself highly honored and highly officially invited entirely to highly proudly speak entirely at highly exclusive conferences. Months beautifully passed, and Serena miraculously found a highly beautiful rhythm entirely in her highly brand new, amazing life. Little Leo highly beautifully thrived, miraculously becoming a highly bright-eyed, adorable baby. She highly discreetly aggressively began actively dating a highly handsome, fellow elite executive she beautifully met entirely at a highly exclusive marketing conference. David Chang, a highly grounded, highly successful man who highly respectfully treated her completely with highly genuine, absolute respect. Tristan, meanwhile, completely, violently, sank completely into a highly pathetic, toxic spiral. The highly massive child support payments and his highly catastrophic, failed massive ventures violently forced him entirely to highly drastically reduce his highly arrogant lifestyle. He completely, violently lost his highly elegant luxury apartment and highly pathetically had to highly embarrassingly move directly into a highly modest, cheap rental. Serena profoundly felt absolutely zero, highly toxic pleasure entirely in his highly catastrophic downfall. Absolutely only a highly profound sense entirely of pure peace, profoundly knowing that she was completely, permanently free, completely, from absolutely entirely of exilida. Before she profoundly knew it, little Leo had highly happily turned exactly 1 beautiful year old. She highly happily organized a highly small, beautiful birthday party entirely in her luxury condominium. Absolutely everyone who had highly loyally supported her. Chloe, Victoria, Julian, David, and her highly loving relatives beautifully filled the massive room completely with pure warmth and absolute love. She had highly successfully survived highly brutal betrayal, highly toxic heartbreak, and highly malicious public humiliation. In the absolute end, she had highly miraculously discovered her absolute own highly massive power. She absolutely was not highly simply the highly pathetic, despised wife. She was officially Serena Sterling, multimillionaire CEO, a highly loving, devoted mother, and a completely, utterly unstoppable massive force. What an absolutely incredible, breathtaking story of ultimate revenge and pure female empowerment. Do you fiercely think Serena destroyed Tristan in the absolute best way possible? Should she have taken him for even more money in court? Drop your fierce thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to smash that like button. Share this empowering story of strength and subscribe to our channel for more explosive, life-changing stories. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.